Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the team of HR at 8 p.m., I welcome you all to a knowledge session of ABCDE, Academia, Business, Consulting, Development and Entrepreneurship. This is the 12th session of Season 2 and the brainchild of Indranil Banerjee and a bunch of volunteers who work selflessly to serve food for thought every Friday evening. So, time now to sit back comfortably, put your feet up, get yourself a drink, preferably a non-alcoholic one, put your mic on mute and listen to some brain food. Your questions and comments are most welcome. The expert speaker for the day is Dr. Anil Khandelwal, a well-known figure in the HR and business circles. The moderator will be Manjusha Bhatnagar, who will introduce Dr. Khandelwal shortly. Manjusha has worked for large PSUs like IOC, ONGC, MRPL. She was the Director of HR Corporate Affairs at Bamalori and on the board of an MNC called BL Van Leer. Presently, she is on the board of Renjo Ventures, a Lindy outfit, and an independent consultant and trainer. She superannuated in 2018 at a very young age. Right now, that should keep you guessing. Over to you, Manjusha. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Atulji. And good evening, everybody. Good evening, Dr. Khandelwal and all the viewers here. It's my privilege to be hosting this evening's, to be the moderator, this evening's gathering. And we have a wonderful topic here, very unusual topic. And the topic is, of course, HR, the undelegatable responsibility of a CEO. And we have one expert CEO who rose to the position from HR, which is a very unusual thing. So before I say anything about Dr. Anil Khandelwal, I would like to narrate a couplet of Allama Iqbal. And of course, it's in Urdu, but I'll translate 2-3 words for you. So the couplet goes like this: Tu Shaheen hai, kar basera pahadon ki chattanon par. Shaheen matlab cheel, eagle. Tu Shaheen hai, kar basera pahadon ki chattanon par. Nazar rakh sitaron par, chal falak ki raahon par. नजर रख सितारों पर मतलब नीचे तो वो चील देखती ही नहीं. The eagle looks above only, and it does not walk on the earth, it flies. So here is a person who's from HR fraternity and who has flown like an eagle. And we are very proud of you, sir. It's my privilege and a pleasure to be introducing Dr. Anil Khandelwal. He is a PhD and he is an HR professional who became CMD of Bank of Baroda as well as Dena Bank. He is an author of 8 books, and some of them I would like to, of course, mention here. He's also been on the Khandelwal Committee on HR reforms in public sector banks. He is an internationally well-known keynote speaker on leadership, governance, transformation, and customer services. A multi-awarded banker who holds the distinction of being the only Indian banker to get Lifetime Achievement Award for his contribution to financial sector by Asian Banker, Singapore. He has been a UNDP consultant on HRD and training to Banking Reform Commission, Government of Tanzania, and a visiting professor on leadership, Asian Management Institute at Manila. He's a thought leader, a CEO, a coach, and he has been on the boards of several companies and advisor on leadership and training in financial sector to global consulting firms. He has authored 2 famous books I said I would like to mention here, Dare to Lead and CEO, the Chess Master or Gardener. Currently, he is Senior Strategic Advisor to none other than KPMG India. NHRD has been very proud to confer the Lifetime Achievement Award upon him. So, sir, I heartily welcome you to this evening's session. And now the floor is yours. You have about, instead of 30 minutes, say 35 minutes. And we have a wonderful presentation by Dr. Khandelwal. I would request all listeners, all viewers and participants to hold on to their questions till the end of the session, because Dr. Khandelwal would like to take them towards the end one by one. So please post your questions as and when they come to your mind in the chat box. Thank you so much. Sir, all yours.
Thank you, Manjusha, for very generous introduction. And thank you, Atulji, for inviting me to this wonderful evening. I like the word 8 p.m. Originally thought there used to be 8 p.m. chocolate, So I thought it's a 8 p.m. drink or a chocolate, but it turned out to be a HR session. So it's wonderful. Indranil approached me for this, and I was quite fascinated with the concept. I see a lot of friends of mine from Bank of Baroda also. And I also see someone, my teacher as well as mentor in many ways, and a friend now, T.V. Rao, and my co-author, T.V. Rao. And when in 1979 or 8, I attended the first workshop at IIM Ahmedabad done by T.V. Rao and Uday Parikh, they made this statement that finally HRD is the business of CEO. And I couldn't make any sense out of it. I said, what are they talking? CEO has no other job than to look at HRD? I was quite surprised at that point of time. But then they were fresh from their L&T work and all that. And later I realized, when during my journey in the bank, incidentally, let me give you some introduction. I belong to Bank of Baroda, which has the distinction, the only bank which has professionalization of HR. In no other bank, including the biggest bank of the country in public sector, there are professionals as we have. Way back in 1958, the professional HR person was recruited, and bank's culture was such that he was sent to 1 year full-time program in labor welfare at London School of Economics, Mr. L.B. Bhede, and to see the impact of it. So in early 80s, 83, 84, when I wanted to do my PhD, Mr. Bhede said that in any case, as a faculty at a staff college, you are supposed to do some research. In fact, it was his idea. Why don't you do your PhD also? The point I'm saying is how professionalism passes on. You invest in people, they invest in next generation. So that is the culture in Bank of Baroda. Many of my professional colleagues are sitting here. I read 2 articles in Harvard Business Review long back. The one was The Job No CEO Can Delegate by Allied Signals chairman, the famous Larry Bossidy. And then What Only CEO Can Do by A.G. Lifley, CEO of P&G. And the legendary turnaround of General Electric by Jack Welch. And the only thing Jack Welch had was that the most of his time went to reorganize human resource function in there. So we have, it is not that only we have done something, it's a whole lot of people. And today I can tell you, we must see the technology companies. I was reading a book which many of you would have gone through, Hit Fresh by our Microsoft chairman Satya Nadella. This book is nothing. There are major chapters on culture, leadership, and things like HRD. You think of Google, it's all about HRD that Google is sustained. Anyway, that apart, it brings me to a fundamental question as to what is the role of, Okay. Now, CEO role is different, quite different than normally understood. What we normally understand is that CEO is a super business manager who can do miracles, he can bring business, he can show year after year profits, he can do this, he can do that. Yes, why not? But The main job of CEO, and we have also seen number of organizations where business keeps on growing and one fine morning, the descent stops. And this I also observed in my own organization, that in the year 2000, the bank came number one, except, after State Bank of India in the nationalized sector. And in the next 3 years, the bank came to number 4 position, slow descent. So these super business managers, the problem with them is they are too narrowly focused on business, 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 business. My own experience, which I will share, is that the business of CEO is not to do business. I'm making a very controversial statement, which I will later on take up. His main role is to manage drivers of business. And what are these drivers of business? These drivers are intangibles, which drive the tangible business. Will come next. Yeah. The choice before every CEO is like this. One is the obsessive focus on right-hand side. Obsessive focus on achieving quarterly business matrices somehow. I come from banking industry and I have no hesitation to say, and in some branch manager collect deposits, which can go away in the early April to show the March results somehow. And in the process, important initiatives are put under the carpet because I have to show results in this. The concern for business can be delusional if organization does not have. It is like having long, thin legs and a belly like Lord Ganesha, that on that legs, the business cannot survive. The other choice before CEO is the readying their organization to face. Because only CEO knows. He has he's connected with government, he's connected with regulators, he's connected with his competitive colleagues, and he knows what is happening in the world. Unless he passes on this information to his senior and top management, he has that unique perspective. And that unique perspective should give him idea whether my organization is on right track. Are we prepared to face the competition? Where the competition is going? Shall we survive? And under these circumstances, if he is focusing only for quarterly results, you are planning for the fail. So his main role is to, unless rate of change in internal organization, I would not say matches because it is impossible to match the rate of change with external environment. But I think at least putting the organization, the challenge of external environment. For example, today we all talk of VUCA environment. I would not define because everyone knows. But today we see what is happening in external environment, whether it is banking. See, there was a time we used to go and it used to take 45 minutes to encash a check. Today everything is happening so fast that even the most lazy banks have become crazy banks, that they are competing crazily now. So that is the external environment. And in that, if the focus remains on being clerks of works, then there is something wrong with the organization. Indranil, so now this shows what are intangibles in the organization. The intangibles are, first is culture of the organization. If we don't have culture, now there is a famous saying, culture eats a strategy for breakfast. Culture eats a strategy for breakfast. Everything can go wrong unless the culture is not there, unless people voluntarily come together, unless they are aligned with the culture is fundamental. The other thing is the driving force is technology. Technology is also part of intangible because it's not business. It is something which is driving. Today, if you are not driving technology and aligning it to the business or to facilitate business to drive it. Third is human capital. We cannot manage today's organization with yesterday's mindsets and methodologies. We need to be in alignment with what today's worker is thinking, what millennials are thinking, what are the issues in intergenerational employees. We have 4 and 5 generations of employees working in the organization. So they can't be managed by not to question how and why, but do and die. We must align with the needs of all generations and see how intergenerational people work together. Then governance, values, and transparency. What is governance? The way we do things, are they transparent? Or we want to do things behind the back of people? Are we telling the world what we do? Interestingly, while the corporate governance report is compulsory to be added as a part of our annual reports, we don't find human capital. Some organizations internationally have started because international investors have started asking about the human capital report. Are you ready? Is your leadership ready? Do you have succession? Do you have position for critical? What are your meritocratic system to select people or to recruit people? So I think these things are very important. Then building future leaders and succession. We have all heard all these things. There's nothing new I'm speaking, but they don't happen. How do you develop future business leaders? Do we know in the largest corporations in India who is number 2, who is number 3, who are the first to 10 people? I tell you, there are organizations in manufacturing, banking, in private, where one doesn't know. There are people for 3 decades, 2 decades, holding number 1 position and nobody knows who are the 3 people who can take charge. And board does not ask these questions. Board is under siege because they can't do any wrong. Somehow, they keep on creating numbers and they have become hero CEOs. In customer connect, this is also part of intangibles. You will ask me, how does it figure in the HR? Customers are also human beings. We cannot see a customer in every human being. We have to see a human being in the customer. And customer is important because we exist because of him. There is absolutely, and I think HR profession has continuously ignored the customer. Talking about it, it doesn't figure. Now that some Americans are talking about being business savvy and all that, but customer is part of our intangible. What are we doing? We are readying the organization outside to inside, and the research in the world has shown that those organizations who build intangibles, their market capitalization is higher from between 50 to 70% of comparable organizations. So it makes business sense as much. Now, once you work on intangibles, what happens? Business outcomes are positive, higher stakeholder value, customer value creation. This is not theoretical. Research has proved, and when I share my Bank of Baroda experience, our entire approach has been how intangibles drive the tangibles. The intangibles, culture, technology, human capital, innovation, customer connect, leader in succession, governance, value. You are readying the organization for tangible business result, strengthening the organizational health, improving the resilience, competitive resilience, as I call it. Now, that is all fine. We have seen number of charts and presentation in HR. It's a field full of rhetorics and jargons. So I'm not talking something, but this is something because I have practiced and benefited on each of these things from direct experience of it. Human capital management is now no more something that we should be doing if we have time or how wish we could do. And just imagine in a country like such a huge country, we have 3-4 organizations to quote where human capital management is in their DNA, Tata's or HUL or maybe a few more, Infosys or some other. Now this responsibility for human capital management is coming. Now regulatory authorities world over, European Union, UK Financial Conduct Authority, and recently in a discussion paper, Reserve Bank of India, they are asking that we are fed up with compliance. You must change the culture. Now regulatory authorities are talking about culture. And I saw one paper from UK Financial Conduct Authority, a 100-page research report on how to build culture in banking. I was amazed. So now regulators have to have HR experts and leadership experts because they are fed up with compliance. Compliance does not bring commitment. And they say we can't be every day the same thing. Then there is a requirement under ESG framework. I'm sure ESG framework, all of us know, environment, social, and governance. Where issues of gender, or I would strongly recommend friends to go on the net and see the 2019 annual report of Bank of America. And they have a special report on human capital where elaborately they have discussed how they are improving diversity, what steps they are taking for diversity, and what kind of wellness program they are providing, what kind of social security they are providing for blacks, what kind of social security for women who are facing domestic violence. Could we ever imagine that work organization would be concerned with domestic violence? Now, this is all coming now under ESG framework, which is now extended. Now, disclosure under risk management in regard to conduct risk. Your integrity and values framework is coming. I can see my friend Anil Sachdev attending. When he talked of values 20 years back, he thought perhaps it is esoteric. Today, value framework, integrity architecture is coming from regulators. It's coming from World Economic Forum. It is being discussed there because these are the fundamental fountainhead creating an architecture in corporate world. And lastly, as I said, international investors are concerned about human capital issues before taking investment decisions. So if you want to raise capital, they would like to know the quality of your board. What is the quality? So it is no more a choice for CEOs today. It is new responsibilities of CEOs under corporate governance. So how did we go about changing culture in Bank of Baroda? And I can tell you, we are a public sector bank. I think 90% staff unionized, including officers, including chief managers and branch managers, and our association more powerful than workmen union. You can't increase a penny for them. You can't give them bonus. You can't give them an increment additional. There is an industry level wage negotiation. How do you create culture for performance? How do you go about? You can't put your hands up and say, I can't do anything. I think leadership role is, and I think all the theories in management have proved about the non-financial incentives, what you can do. Now, how did we go about changing the culture of performance, teamwork, accountability, responsiveness, strategic thinking, integrity, governance? The neck is always at the neck of the bottle, at the top. People want to see first whether top management is changing or not. And much of the angst at the lower rung is because they don't find their top management changing. They find they are sermonizers. They are using their authority to issue instructions. That they are sitting on the... We have to find as HR guys the mechanisms. You can't go... My organization had 40,000 employees. I can't go to 40,000 people. How top management changes? How do you change legacy-driven organization? And I thought of a mechanism called daily morning meeting, 9:30 to 10:30. Whether there are rains, floods, this meeting has to take place, in which the entire team of general managers and by invitation some DGMs, one or two advisors, my executive secretary, they will attend this meeting. And what is this meeting all about? Actually, my all learning on leadership came within the bank, how to do things and how not to do things. Sometimes meetings are a joke, I tell you, which are only issuing instructions. And so the meeting, we were very conscious, I'm not discussing business in these meetings. Because I attended millions of meetings in my career And I could not see the sixth question. 5 questions were, what are your deposits? What is your CASA, current account and savings bank? What is the NPA level? What is corporate credit growth? What is your profit level? Sixth question. Nobody asked, do you have any problem? Can I help you? Shall we facilitate anything? In these morning meetings, we did not discuss business. I was very clear and I thought, since I come from HR, the business expectation from me may not be very high also. I even didn't plan. And what we discussed was our culture. To give you an example, since I also worked in the zone in my career, I experienced the top management. And what I experienced was that the responsiveness of the top was extremely poor. They expect you to reply by return mail, but they don't reply. The first thing we worked was on responsiveness, that every single letter from customer, every single letter from work organization will have to be replied. I can have a lenient view if in a judicious exercise of executive power, we have lost business somewhere, where even money we have lost. But I will be intolerant if we are not responsive. Zero tolerance for not responding to people. And again, we went to the extent how to respond, what to respond. To give you an example, that when we were celebrating our 100 years, and we were saying banking with passion with Bank of Baroda, banking with passion. One lady wrote to me a letter, dear Dr. Khandelwal, while I appreciate this, let me tell you, you should change your logo line. Your logo line should not be banking with passion. Your line should be banking with patience. You are so horrible that you should change it to banking with patience. And she narrated an incident that how she is moving from pillar to post 4 times to get registration for internet banking. Those days it was just bringing you to register. So these are the kind of things I bring into morning meeting. Now let me share with you. The first thing is, Are Saab, you are very finicky. One lady, in fact, the word used was one mad lady out of so many millions of customer writes this and you get very panicked. We change structure, we bought our new strategy. Now, we always say government does not allow us to do this. We say Reserve Bank does not allow us to do. I don't think they stop us to do right things. We set up a boards committee on HR with eminent outside experts like Pradeep Khandwala, B.L. Maheshwari, Arvind Agrawal, and by invitation we invited persons like Uday Parikh, T.V. Rao to guide us. And we were the first in the industry to develop a HR policy document and create a strategic framework for HR reforms, because I was aware I have only 3 years. And I'm very happy that our personnel specialists, and we, in talent building, we started a program, Coach. In compassion and caring, we started Sampark, a direct hotline to CEO. Next, please. In emotional connect, we started Paramarsh. In major centers, we put professionally qualified counselors and our employees could go there at bank's cost. In engagement and empowerment or lower rungs, we created a strong communication architecture. I will write to 40,000 employees, personally addressed letter in computer times. This is possible. Town hall meetings, employee conclaves, and using field wisdom. And believe me, the kind of wisdom people gave me, that became the customer connect through innovative initiatives like ATM to 8 PM banking, 24-hour human banking, happy hours banking, Gen Next branches, all done by employees and our HR team. Leadership development, I would especially like to mention, we created a project for developing 300 leaders. Thanks to Mr. Anil Sachdev, he has been an old friend and of course came and met us, Grow Talent. We had several rounds of discussion and so happy to report only this part that this 300 leadership really brought about change in our leadership bench strength. I want to say that, but largely because of this leadership development strategy, 12 of my colleagues became chairman and managing directors and executive directors. And one of them, Anil, if you remember, Mr. Mundra became deputy governor, who was trained by your session somewhere in Paris, if I remember correctly. Okay. Next, I'm trying to say that each of the things, how we achieved, how we created intangibles, but lest someone says, what is all this? What happened to business? Global business increased by 107% in 1,000 working days. 900 working days. If you remove Sundays and holidays, my 3 years tenure was 900 working days, 107% global business size. Credit growth was 145%. The man who delivered this, Mr. Kalia, is also watching this. Net profit, 112%. And what is, I can't see my own this. So you can see practically on all parameters. And entire credit goes to hundreds of operating managers, thousands of lower rung people, and more particular to my HR team. Many of them partnered this transformation and they are watching this, and I invited them. These are my 2 books. Those who are interested in complete transformation story, they can possibly go through these. So that I realized that this is undelegatable task of CEO to create an organization for future which can be sustained year after year. And the professional contribution in the bank has been that they have become is chairman agnostic. Whether whosoever comes in public sector 3 years after, the HR team continues to do its bit. So that's the story I wanted to share. Is something, and therefore I always say that this is an undelegatable task of a CEO. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
That was a very, very informative and wonderful landscape created by you, sir, about your 3 years journey and much more. Now the floor is open for questions. I would raise the first question from Mr. Atul Bhatnagar. What he says is, sir, that if you were the CEO now during COVID times, what would you do different?
You see, we will do what we have been doing, employee connectedness and a familial, because now the psychological space during COVID times have moved from employee to employee's family also. This whole concept of wellness is extended now. We were earlier doing wellness within the framework of rules and regulation. This is your entitlement, you can take this much medical aid, you can take these many leave. I think this whole concept of wellness is a new evolution during, it's the gift of COVID, that you have to look to the entire family of the employee. The employee cannot be happy if somebody is a COVID patient at home. And this whole work from home culture is also, it has taken the work organization nearer to the family of employee. So I think our work would stand vindicated that what we invested in people and what we continue to invest in people pays off.
One of your statements is stuck with me, that is that HR has consistently ignored customers. If we were to do it now, especially during COVID times, when the customer is nowhere very close to us physically at least, how would we do it, sir? So what would be the strategies?
There are several ways. Only employees can do it. I came to know the other day, one of our employee from a branch, he was voluntarily, bank had not told him, voluntarily has been going to 3 very old people, supplying them medicine, helping them. He has given his mobile number. He has been helping. Probably organizations during COVID times can encourage people to help their helpless customers, and extend the reach. Now, everything in a commercial organization cannot have direct connect with what business it will come tomorrow. But I think the goodwill it brings, the loyalty that it brings, and the satisfaction that it gives you, because serving community is also part of HR now. It would be, I have always believed that HR cannot be only for HR, view of this. Now, if you are asking me if I have to into how do they because actually induction program should take place from customers and vendors so that they know what are the issues that they have got relating to organization, especially employees, and they understand their expectations. But I'm sure this will happen someday.
I have a question from Mr. G.P. Naik. So he wants to know, was there transparent HR during your term? For example, performance appraisals remained confidential till 2009, sir.
I don't consider performance appraisal today as a part of even HR. It's an administrative job, if you ask me honestly. Now, what I'm trying to say, these are not the indicators of transparency. I'm telling you, the indicator of transparencies are something else. That an employee somewhere from Bihar has written to you a letter, do you reply that? We started a direct helpline to chairman. 40,000 employees could write to chairman with a guaranteed solution in 24 hours. That is transparency.
Sir, in his book, Dr. Ram Charan writes, this is his book titled Leadership Pipeline. He says that a CEO can be detected very early, at early stages. If he is good at finance management, then mark him for CEO's position and train him. But you have broken that myth successfully. And at least in the public sector, I find very far and few people who have risen to the rank of CEO, such as Mr. Arun Balakrishna, former CMD of BPC, or Dr. S.K. Acharya, former CMD, Naivalli Lignite Limited. So these are some of the names that come to our minds. They were HR people and they grew to the level of CMD. If you were to give 3 mantras to HR guys to become CMDs in future, what would those be?
First of all, I have no mantra. I'm not a guru. Only gurus can give mantras. Everyone has a story. Everyone. Atul has a story. You have a story. I have a story. I think the most important thing in case of employees is, as I heard HUL chairman to say, and I very much liked it, never forget your first address. And I remember always my first address and my student life where I studied in parks and where was I could not pay 6 rupee fees in 6th class and hum log fees maaf karane jate the. Now, if you have not if you have not forgotten your first address, it get rooted into that, number one. Number two, there is a lot of phoniness about HR. There are a lot of rhetorics about HR. You open anything, there are very flimsy charts. One should be a culture architect. One should be this champion. What should be that champion? I think let us get rid of jargons in HR. A good HR man is seen, even if he's tough. And let me tell you, my reputation on softness is not very high in Bank of Baroda. I practiced tough love, but it was transparent. They were ruthless with those who, because 40,000 employees are not apostle of peace. 40,000 employees are not all devtas, So it was very clear that my policy was tough love, high on performance and high degree of compassion. I'll break every rule for compassion. And employees understand that. They respect it. That in their times of crisis, if you can help them, then the kind of voluntary commitment and engagement that comes from them. But I and my team was quite strict about few things. They were, when in a legacy-driven organization, you would not believe, at one point of time, we recovered 3 crore of money from our employees under this and all that. Life is not all that simple. When presentation, everything sounds very romantic. that some Khandelwal came, oh, he did this thing and this was achieved. Life is not all that simple. Leadership is like driving a bicycle without cover, which is always pinching you here and there, you know. Leadership is not all that romantic affair. That is only in textbooks.
Right,
So we had to take very tough decisions. We had running war with our officers association. What kind of scandalous circulars they were issuing? What kind of that if you are in the you have to go through everything. It toughens you. It is like steel making, where the steel making undergoes in furnace a process of 1200 degrees centigrade. The leadership is not, and therefore most people do not deserve to be leader because they are not tough. Let me tell you, first thing. This whole HR business is projected as a softy ice cream. So this is a tough job.
True, sir. True. We will take another question from my friend Rajiv Kumar. He says, sir, your work has been phenomenal. Indeed, it is an international case study that way. But he says, I am a customer of Bob since last 2 years or so and find a lot of operational issues. Sometimes servers are down. Sustaining the good work is a big challenge. So what is the message you have for the current team under these circumstances, especially when you have competition from the private sector banks?
Now, let me tell you, recently, I don't want to name country's biggest private sector banks, 2 banks, which are rated on customer service below public sector banks. We need to get, I'm not saying that we have earned the right to be. I think it is a relentless effort. But having said that, I should be telling you, each bank has, like, you know, today with 2 mergers, we have over 100,000 employees and about, if I'm not wrong, 5 crore customers. Problems do come, but customer with problems should have faith that you cannot have one fine morning, everything is wonderful. You will still have problem, but they must have faith. No, this bank listens to me. And my message to now, after 12 years of my retirement, I know how people are working hard, but always, recently, for example, they changed internet banking. Even I had something, ye kyun change kar diya, isme ye problem. But then they have their own security problems. Point I'm saying is, nobody today can give guarantee that everything is 100% all right. And this is where management and leadership is required. But having said that, I should tell you, madam, one thing. Even today in all banks, the granular emphasis on customer service is not as much as you and me would like to see. There is still into operational issues of that emphasis has got to be there. And let me share with you, in order to put that emphasis, we also had a helpline for customers. World over customers could contact me, 24-hour guaranteed solution. So I had 2 specialists in my office, chairman secretariat, 1 HR specialist, 1 customer service specialist. So you must by structure and process demonstrate that you are doing something and things are happening. That's the point I would say. And I would very much like to see Bank of Baroda or any other bank giving best of the service. But I do concede the point. I would like to see more of it in organizations.
Very well, sir.
Whether banking or elsewhere, our organization.
I would say that we have had a very wonderful session from Dr. Anil Khandelwal. And now I would hand over the baton to Mr. Atul Bhatnagar for summation of this session.
Sure. Very enlightening session, Dr. Khandelwal. I can relate to it because I've been a banker for 22 years. I previously worked at Bank, HSBC and Barclays. So I have worked closely with Bank of Baroda also in a different avatar. Well, I was very happy to hear that you have stressed on CEOs not just going for quarterly targets. I've seen many a bank go down because the only focus was targets. And as you rightly said, you can't be delusional. Or if you think that targets are the only focus, I can quote the example of Citibank itself. I mean, the 90s when I was there in Citibank India, the focus was on customer. And somewhere in the US, this Citibank merged with the Travelers Group and the focus turned to sales. And by 2006, the bank was tottering. I mean, the Lehman crisis just kind of survived 2008. Otherwise, it could have gone bankrupt. Because suddenly the focus from customer to sales, worldwide bank, which was known for service, become very, very, shaky. Then what I liked about some of your work that you talked about, clerks of work, I mean, that's really very important. I can again relate to that. People are just making presentations, creating jargon. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. A pearls of wisdom. I'm just trying to recount those which have really, really made an impact on me, and I hope the audience too. Then transparency, no human capital report. And now you are talking about, yes, this is now a reality. Central banks are asking for it, and it's coming out in various other governing authorities. That's a very, very, let's say, a welcome sign. Then intangibles leading tangibles, leading to 50 to 70% higher market cap. And I think you did a grand job in your time there with 107% business growth in 900 working days, 145% credit growth. Net profit about your saying intangibles governing tangibles, that there are numbers here. Nobody can deny it. It's not just a theoretical presentation that you made, but you showed it how your presence being there has created such a big change. And human being in the customer, I think that's another thing that I can relate from my Citibank days. We had so much stress on the customer. I mean, when I joined the bank, we were sent to for 1.5 days of telephone courtesy calls. We just had to pick up the phone and say, good morning, Citibank, Atul Bhatnagar here, how may I help you? To the extent it became part of my DNA, and even at home, when a call used to come, I used to say, good morning, Citibank, and then say, sorry. But the fact of the matter is that it's ingrained in you so much that it serves me even till today. I'm no longer working for a bank, but I think it's a telephone courtesy, something that has lived with me, and I'm telling my children also to do that. Then the 2000 annual report of Bank of America, I would suggest all the people who are listening to this conversation go and have a look at it. It's talking about diversity and wellness, and it includes domestic violence. That's wow. I mean, that's something which we all would like to see, we talk about, but here is a report that is coming, and I think we all should have. And then you mentioned about the change culture in Bank of Baroda, of how 90% unionized people, and you were able to do that through this morning meeting, daily morning meeting, 9:30, 10:30, without discussing business and discussing more about culture. I think that's a great thing. And to talk about responsiveness for every letter, I have been driving this. I was the customer service champion and I know what that means. That's a simple thank you for every single, let's say, suggestion. I mean, it might be a very so-called a foolish suggestion, but the person has written to you. I think you just ought to just say thank you for your suggestion. And again, a very interesting thing we were taught very early in our Citibank days was even when for credit cards, there are customers you refuse. Okay, look, we can't give you a credit card because the financials are not okay or some other reason. Our CEO told us that every time that you have to refuse a customer or so-called customer, let's say, you say, thank you for applying to us. And sorry, we cannot entertain your application at this time. Hopefully, when your financials improve or credit policies change, we would be happy to have you as a customer. So please do apply, and thank you for thinking of us. I mean, it's such a nice way to say. Otherwise, nowadays it's like decline, reject. Those words are very, very strong words. Customer takes to heart. I mean, we take to heart. If somebody says you are rejected or you're declined, it's like an emotional hit to our heart. So those are the things that I was really impressed. It came out from your presentation. Guitar in my heart started singing again. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I'd like to read your books on CEO Chess Master to Gardener. or Gardner or Dare to Lead. So definitely I will have a look at that. And don't forget your first address. That's an exercise in humility. And that's the way one should look at it. So I think overall, I'm very enlightened. You can't see the halo around my head, but yes, there is one. Thank you very much. And
Thank you. Thank you so much. I am so grateful, Mr. Atul. The way you have summarized, I'm amazed.
It's beautiful. It's really beautiful.
One thing shows you are a great listener and conceptualizer.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So before we bring the session to a close, I can see my friend Surajit Sainji here. I request Mr. Surajit Sain, who is a veteran HR person, MSW from 1979 and then ex-ACC, and also he's worked with Atlas Cycle. He's here. He's been an avid participant to these sessions. Mr. Sain, I would request you to propose a vote of thanks.
Thank you, Manju sir, for giving me this opportunity to vote of thanks to our distinguished speakers, Dr. Anil Khandelwal, a well-known personality in HR fraternity as well as the banking industry. He is a role model, and you have already given, as well as Atul also spoke about, like the illustrious career, a brief account of Dr. Khandelwal. It was an excellent address to us, made just now by Dr. Khandelwal. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you
for your thought-provoking as well as interesting address. Your insights should surely help us, each one of us, to dare to lead our respective assignments. Thank you all the participants and to the organizers like Atul, Manju sir, Indranil and others who have made this program a grand success. Over to Manju sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Khandelwal. Thank you, Mr. Bhatnagar. And thank you, Mr. Sain, and all the viewers and participants. See you next Friday. Thank you. Good night.